up for, you want to straight that camera over there?
Yeah, we are live and direct on YouTube as well as the Facebook Live. Um, we just finished watching and taking notes of the Avatar. Explain what happened. What did the note say to you when we were live and playing it live, and then not going to save it this time because there has been argument with Facebook on posting up information and ideas of content that is not, original. So I don't have ownership rights to the Avatar movie. This is a critique of venue. Want to see the movie? Of course, you can always watch it on your own. But
YouTube is $3.99. It's good buy if you're watching it with your family.
um, and so the idea of posting this on Facebook was it was prohibited. And they also mentioned to you about the new movie that's coming up, right?
Yeah, in looking up the links and so forth, a lot of us Avatar fans have been looking for when the new series is coming out, and finally, after saying 2015, 2018, there is a hard date for December 2021.
21.
Yes, and then they're gonna release the next the next four movies every other year. So it's a really big production. It's a about 300 million dollars per movie, and Avatar killed that, in its opening. So they're expecting to run these back to back to back. A lot of production time and so forth lately has gone through doing some of the Star Wars series, going through doing the work up to the Marvel Endgame. But Avatar, the prize is just as big, and the list of stars is remarkable. It seems like my voice is kind of rough. It's cause it was a really got a chance to get interactive with the movie, get kind of loud there as different things were going on. But yeah, that's kind of the looks like December 2021 will have the rollout of the Avatar series.
Well, I wanted to share when I first saw the movie or heard of the movie, I was a little disgruntled because I watched the cartoon series of Aang and the Avatar, and that's the real Avatar. And so I was a little, frustrated over the fact that they used that term. I know what the word Avatar means, and the idea that maybe they could not necessarily patent or control having a movie and having another theme after that term may have been a question. So, but once I saw the movie, I was so in love with the movie. I completely connected and identified with it. And the main carry out was I see you. I see you. And the idea that it was deeper than making, you know, eye contact or recognizing some facial recognition. It was deeper than the Western way of thinking. It was the spiritual heart. And then I'm going to kick back on the Matrix in that Neo, the character Neo, was able to see the Matrix. He was able to see past the illusion of, you know, people and what we look at on the exterior surface. Even though once you jumped into the program, you actually had a better looking self. You know, your envision of self. You're clean shaven, your hair done, you had a nice outfit, your body was better. And then when you came back out of the matrix into, the real world, you were kind of cruddy and smelly looking.
eating
So,
chicken soup.
no, that wasn't even. It was like,
They said everything tastes like chicken, and
yeah,
they don't
it
know what
wasn't
to
even.
take.
It was like, how do you know when chicken tastes like chicken? But they were eating at call it some kind of biological
Just amino.
amino acid, yeah.
Yes.
And it was like, oh my goodness. But with that being said, um, going back to this movie, I was just profoundly. Um, I saw when they first landed or entered into the planetary region, and this movie made. I just there were some things I remember that was not in this remake. One of them I think that they intentionally took out was when they were sitting around eating and having their meal, and uh, this avatar steps around them and offends the people because he's walking around while they're having their meal and walks into, clumsily into their environment. I remember that, and it wasn't in this movie, or at least I didn't recall it in this movie. And so I know it was a redo. I heard that had happened. But that was my first impression, was the wonder of just the imagining a planet where there are orbs that are floating around and other, islands instead of just the water uh, objective. Um, we're going to go into the 5G because that's very profound. We talked about it earlier, but my recap was that it was the spiritual, the idea of blue people. Uh, I my first reference to the blue people, the fact that they were blue, was of course the colorism and racism that I deal with on a daily basis, but also with the idea that our indigo people, that we actually wore indigo, the royalty exclusively wore indigo. Indigo is on the electromagnetic, or the the spectrum of light. Indigo is one of the higher conscious states, and it's right next to ultraviolet, and it's a very powerful color. And the royal family were the only people that were permitted to wear this indigo, and so the indigo was produced and manufactured exclusively for the royal family. And if you were caught wearing that on a casual basis, like what we're doing today, we wear denim jeans, and the first time they started indigo, it was in prison. They wore it as prison gear to distinguish people. The Navy seamen wore the indigo, and it becomes now this casual effect of sky blue, and the different colors. And you take the denim jeans, and you rip them, and you distress them. And the cotton also is a paradox in that this was forced. Cotton was king in the early America. Cotton was the primary industry of the Americas, and fiber manufacturing. That is an economics construct that people kill themselves, kill each other over. And so that paradox of the cotton, and then going back to indigo, the color indigo was a sacred, high conscious color, and it is the royal purple. And the idea that that is casual now.
And they call it ultraviolet. The last color that we can see with our eye range, the highest frequency color, and beyond that is the ultraviolet range, and everything above what the human eye can see is ultraviolet. On the low frequency side is red,
Yeah,
and it's
infrared.
infrared, all the way down to zero frequency. We can color energy emissions that we can't see because our eyes only can see through a certain spectrum. And right about now, and this gets us back in our discussion about the 5G, is that the eye, based on the different colors, the cones, and the separation, the distance away from them, and the amount of time that it takes for the signal to get to our brain and back and process it is a limited amount of frequency that we can see, that the human body can see. So if you make visual experiences outside of this range, you won't even be able to see them. And right now, the 4K, uh, uh, 4,000 uh, pixels per square inch. Once you go past 4,000, you could have 8,000, 10,000, 20,000. Your eye can't tell the difference between that 4K and so you won't be able to tell. After that, you got to start messing with the contrast and things of that sort to get a better picture. So right now, if I'm streaming a 4K signal, I got a certain amount of speed that I need and a certain amount of bandwidth, and it's not HD, it's 4K, which is 4 times what we used to call HD. Uh, so if I'm at that amount of accuracy and I'm doing what they were doing, where I've got this ship up there and I've got the pod, which is a remote transmitter. You know, we have we got our satellites up there, and then we have our cell towers. The satellite brings down that fiber signal and it runs out to all the cell towers. It's the same type of situation they were having. Well, just imagine when you go from everybody remember when you had before everybody had unlimited. If you went over your usage, what speed did they drop you to? There used to be you were at 4G. What do they drop you to when you get over your limit, your 2 GB limit? They drop you down to 2G. So they drop you all the way down to 2G, and that frequency, the 4G, you get double double or squared. I'm not exactly sure how much more you can get, but you get that much more ability to stream that video through. Now, if I've got 5G, I could do 5 times more video than 1G. Okay, that's gigahertz. That's the speed. So, in order to do what they were doing, it's similar to me having a smart home, and I've got my alarm system, my video. I check on my dad who's sitting in the back room. He may get up and walk out. I say, "Hey, Dad, what you doing?" I gotta do all this in my busy life of working 2 jobs in today's economy at the wages that they pay. So in that lifestyle, in order for me to feel safe and have my little latchkey kids, home, get home at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, for just me, I gotta have that 5G in order to have the security. And when enough people get it, we can all have security. So if I lived in a rural area, though, I would say, well, that's not that deep. That security, I'll just have a system and have it send me an alarm when I get there. Have it call the police. But if you're in an urban area, if you're in the most violent city, if you, God forbid, you're a black male and your life expectancy, is the worst in the world, right here. That's including wartime areas. Then you really have to think about taking your home smart. And when the prices start going up, then you really got to start looking at adding that little money for the solar panel to reduce your utility bill so you can pay for these things. So this is what's coming. All these devices I can control because I don't have a nanny for my kids. It wasn't in my budget when I talked to my boss about the new job. So these are the type of things we're going to start having all these features available. with that 5G. Not just animating one highly trained guy to run around and interfere with local politics or whatever. Oh, did I say politics? I'm sorry. Um, so, so I want to go over something from the nation building how to when when the one clan that uh, that the hero married into was the one clan, and every now and then something is such a threat to the community that a leader has to come to unite all the clans. They don't all have to start living like each other. They don't all have to start getting along. It's just that this problem is bigger than our individual families. And it's the time where we have to come together. Okay? That method of coming together, uh, you know, that was the Mach 2. You ride the big bird, the king of the sky, the red bird.
Oh man.
You have to get mounted, you know. I got my little eye right here of the hawk that you got to get, you got to be able to ride this, and you can wear this, and you can unify all the different clans and get them to come together and work on some issues. So that is, but that only happens every now and then. Mac Charles Jones brought everybody back together at one time. Martin Luther King. It was just different leaders come and to get everybody together. And that's the idea of the movie. Well, they had all these clans, okay? Eventually they started, they had the clan, eventually they ended up with 170 different clans. And a lot of times we just think there's one leader and 170 clans, but usually there's a gnome where there's some leadership, and it's five different clans under one group. So you're really moving, instead of just like 5 families, you're looking at like 125 families coming together.
Right.
And instead of, because it gets more complex if you don't develop those long-term relationships and the people can't commit to their word. So in the definition of economics is the system, the study system of the gnome, and that's the management of people and resources. And that's the straight definition of economics. So if my best technique for efficiency says I put 5 families together, make a clan, 5 clans make a gnome, 5 gnomes make a city-state, 5 city-states make a nation. If I have that procedure, and that's the most efficient, and I study that, then I'm an economics, economist. So the lot of times with the models that we have, they have this term called macroeconomics, where they're dealing with people on the large scale of production. On microeconomics, they deal with buyer groups. Who you are, what you're buying, and then they group your own micro situation and how you will behave on a micro level. Well, economics, I would say, is right in the middle, where we actually use families and the values of families and so forth to decide how we mix together. You just can't put any 2 families together and expect order. So that's just kind of one of the things I noticed that they brought out here, the gnome or the clans. Also, I had talked before, I did the spoiler before, the idea that you can upload all your data into the cloud and you can go somewhere else and download it back down, and you have your data from all over. You know, you can go from place to place, and it's more data than you can carry with me. I've got I'm not sure if I'm up to a terabyte yet. A terabyte was a phenomenal amount of money when I was on the submarine. We wasn't using a terabyte. We launching missiles. Don't take a terabyte to launch a nuclear missile and hit a can in Brazil. I know it doesn't take that. So all these doesn't take a terabyte to run a nuclear reactor. I know that from experience. So streaming large amounts of video, 24 hours a day, and that's basically. I think Brother Kihei is the only person I've seen fill up a terabyte in a in a year. You know, he had to go get another terabyte drive. I'm like, bro, you doing a lot here. This is during the 52 weeks. So that's kind of some of the things in the movie. It was two things I wanted to talk about is when they actually attacked the first tree, and when the sister was waking up and seeing it, they showed one of the horse-like creatures running out of the fire with the flames on its back. Okay, that scene right there is a unifying type of thing. That is one of the situations that no matter where you come from, that one scene is the clicker that, oh no, you're gonna pay for that. You know, people go to war, but you like, really, really, dude. You know, okay, so that was really. They went through the process of saying, well, we're going to use smoke to get the humans out or whatever. But when the method they bombed at, it was so horrific and so damaging to the ecology, where they come in and attack an ecology. You know, not an economy, but an ecology. And most time, these economies are built on the ecology in the local area.
Yeah, I wanted to add, when you were talking about economics, I was listening to Dr. Amos Wilson. Peace be upon him. He wrote an opus book called The Blueprint for Black Power. And in that, he had seminars that he gave. You can Google him or go into YouTube and use that search engine. But one of the things he pointed out as far as civilization and the antiquities, he talked about how Mansa Musa had so much gold that he upset the economy of several empires. He basically turned them by walking across their territory, he turned them into, paupers, poor people, because he had so much gold that he was just giving away. He devalued their economy. And I always said that was what alerted the invaders, the West, to come in and take over, was because they were looking for that. They were looking for that gold. But the other side of that story is that gold is actually intentionally devalued. Diamonds are intentionally devalued so that their price can go up. And so they create a scarcity by hoarding. And so I think about the Queen of England. She goes and touches a little gold once a year and make sure it's all stacked up in there, and that kind of ravage. In that, I've seen a animation where they scooped out the entire continent of Africa, made into like a bowl, and then they put a mountain of dirt pile in Europe, in that basically their economy and the wealth and the power of imperialism is based on uh, the environment, the natural resources. So that is the power of land ownership, in that you own the land, you own access to the waterway, you own the mineral rights, you own uh, the natural products that are grown on that land, and then you extract those resources. So Dr. Amos Wilson also reflects on, he said they had millions of spearheads that were dug up in anthropological digs, and you could tell, some of them were, most of them were gold plated, or they had gold mixed into the metal. And the idea that there was an enormous economic empire in the continent of Africa with the people, and their empires were phenomenal. Uh, and that history is often not spoken of and taught in our educational system that exists today. But the idea that what he brought out was the economy, in that this economy spread, in that the knowledge of how many folds are welded to, or cast together to make a sword, for instance, and that knowledge of making this powerful blade that can cut, and it's resistant to damage, and that weapon was transported. That knowledge was transported across the planet, and it appears in the Americas. You know, the African products and the African industry appears in Europe. It appears in Asian countries, and the idea that most will deny and ignore the power and influence and of the trading system and of the knowledge of and craftsmanship and the
Right.
expertise and
Right.
the
'Cause
they had formidable military.
one of the things the doctor said to him, Skirney Weaver said to him in the movie was that you're looking at the name of, remember the name of the material?
Unobtainable.
Unobtainium.
Obtainium. Yes.
Yes, it's just so
obtainable.
so rare. It's just unattainable. That's how rare it is. But it caused things to float and so forth, and have a stable distance above the ground. So it was just really just the wonderful, wonderful metal called unattainium. Well, even on the value, he was saying just 1 kilogram of it paid for everything that they were doing, spaceship travels and so forth. And uh, but she has pointed out that this is a place that has a communications network.
Right.
The way they pass information and the depth to which they're communicating with the animals, with the Navi, the way that they were communicating with the plants, like they're all part of this one thing combined by this communication system that can connect any one of them together at any time. They all had parts. They all were extension of this communication problem, because now they could take their receptor.
Yeah, they're locked. They had a lock.
They could connect with each other because all of them connected with that communication system. And she was explaining that, we could grow one of these on our planet, and all of our communications would be over. We could just directly communicate with one another through the ecology that is around us.
Right. So they could have just taken one of the seeds from the mother trees.
Or the filament system.
Yeah, it would have grown a filament
the No, they have a new leaf now, which is really not a leaf. It's just laid out like a leaf. No, they have a new leaf now, which is really not a leaf. It's just laid out like a leaf.
Right.
You know, just laid out like a leaf.
It's partially organic.
Well,
It's like a clone.
it's not. I've checked it out. Checked this on YouTube. Okay. There's a leaf that shaped highly efficient solar uh, solar to the electrical energy uh, uh, panel. It's a little small panel. They can be made bigger, but basically it does the same thing that a plant does. Take that light and then turns it into the chlorophyll, and then that feeds the rest of the system. So it's capturing that and just turning it into energy. Well, this leaf that this guy has, he takes copper, copper,
which is organic,
O2, you know, Cooper's copper or whatever, and you can get that out of. You can just take a normal. You basically take a piece of copper and salt water to make this, and then you put that in there. You put that in there. You get the water at a certain temperature, and you let the sun hit it, and electricity comes out at the end of it. So you're basically using copper instead of platinum or gold or anything like that, or you finding a way to take a readily available substance and using that to make solar panels instead of this to get the efficiency, and the efficiency is higher than the efficiency of using ethanol, even using corn and distilling it. It's the efficiency you get out of the systems a lot higher, and it's also higher than what they're getting out of solar panels. So this is a massive leap to just retool our conservation system into something that's commonly available, and that's what. But they took the chemical that they use for that communication system. Now I'm sound like I'm trying to design a Yawa system here, you know. But that's the reality is they see something, and if you study it, then you can produce something that's as efficient, worldwide communication network that no transmission, no danger to humans, and so forth, and so on. That would be great and an idea. We wouldn't have to be worried about satellites shooting us. You know, if you got, you know, it's really only one big phone company. That's my conspiracy theory joke. But the big carriers, you know, you got the AT&T and the Sprint and the T-Mobile, but you know some of them are all the same now. But
they've merged.
Each one of them has their towers, and one of them might have a level, and they're shooting the signal through you. All three signals are hitting you, and they're all trying to cover the area. And they got their little repeaters. When there's a little dead spot, they go put one out there. So everybody's zapping you with their signal, but you only using one. You know, so the more, you know, they say competition to drive the price up, but it might bring the bill down. You know, lack of competition. You know, so having a system that can replace all of that energy would be a very valuable, based on how much people spend on their phones. You know, on their phones nowadays.
Well, again, this is MWAT. We are East Meets West of Truth. That's the acronym, and we are the positive black male image. In that, after reading a report on the low life expectancy of African American men in Kansas City, specifically compared to any other uh, nation, the idea that we need to embrace our African American men, that we need to come to understand, come to work on our communication better and our relationships. And part of that is in the media and how we address the media, how the media addresses us, to remove racial stereotypes, to remove the ideas uh, of fear and hostility that is so rampant. Also, the idea that uh, our images are a network that goes across the planet. So I've heard people say, "Well, do you want that bling bling?" They travel all the way to Africa, and you meet people who have T-shirts, and they're trying to sell gold chains, or they have these ideas that we're so spoiled we have to have these indulgences that they can capitalize on because uh, there is a perception of African American images and that we don't uh, often see our intellect. We don't see the kindness and generosity and our humanness and our work culture, our way of life as a part of the greater society. Uh, there's like a contradiction of terms. We love your culture, but we don't love the people. So that image has to change. We created this movie night just in celebration of positive images, and I want to encourage you all to give us your um, value of the movie Avatar and the movie of the Matrix, what your opinions are, and making this presentation interactive. Like I said, the beauty of this is you don't have to come to the movie site location, although we are working out the kinks about the movies on Facebook. And
Looks like we're gonna have to have food here to get the people to come.
we have food. We had sandwiches. We had donuts. We have microwave popcorn. There's a restroom. It's a nice intimate space, and just to encourage people to know, yeah, we got food, and feel free to make this a potluck occasion where you can bring your own dishes and um, celebrate in regard to the relationships and connections and network. Um, so I so this is what our event is about, and I just want to encourage people to give me a fist. One fist is a low rating for the movie. Five fists would be excellent, and so give me a report on your opinions on the movie. I wanted to talk about some highlights again. Uh, I mentioned as I watched the movie that I had seen a meme in that this movie, the dress and the hairstyles and the way of the culture was very similar to African cultural societies in different genres. Much like the Panther movie had, very distinct tribes, and they had their different headdresses and cultural clothing and symbols.
Right.
And so the sign,
the five clans or the five families.
right,
Same
very distinct.
structure. You start seeing that same structure, and even in the fictional representations of a society.
Right. So, and then I mentioned the Nephilim. When this movie came out, there was a big discussion about the Nephilim being very tall people, and that there were supposed to be markers of grave sites and evidence on the even in the ancient Kemetic society of
They've got them here in
Nephilims.
America. They've got 5 different racial groups of giants up in Milwaukee. If you look up giant skeletons in Wisconsin, or then they've got the anthropological, or the, what do you call that science? You got your degree in anthropology. So they trying to explain that.
And so I did make some notes on that. Ankh it was a Hebrew word for the giant neck. the, what a knock, what a neck, or necklace is the meaning of the name, but that's also another reference in the book of Numbers, as they say. Um, I mentioned I see you, and that is a statement of love and appreciation. You know, I know that many people in different cultures were raised not to make direct eye contact with people who were in authority. It was a way of showing deference or humbleness, and then sometimes not looking at people. I find it to be insulting if people do not make eye contact with me, and I intentionally make eye contact because as a woman, and as I used to often be, I used to actually be very shy. But the idea of the idea of people who don't recognize you and don't see you, that you are invisible, you're not considered as something of significance in a society, uh, is the meaning or message behind, also behind ICU, but also, like I said, the intimate phrase of, it's a compliment. It's deeper than I love you. It is, I acknowledge you in my space. Also, I made a notation of how the military used terms when they rallied their men, and that they moved from to an attempt to dehumanize the people, and so um, the idea of they moved from uh, they said they made some kind of reference of mud eating monkeys or some mud monkeys or something like that, and then there was a reference of the hostiles, and that they didn't even refer to them as human beings who had a culture and a way of life. They were going after what they wanted to go after, and they were heartless and encouraged everyone else to be heartless. Um, and so also I made a point of pointing out Iwa was a reference to heaven, or a reference to this higher consciousness that people go to, and that they were able to touch those trees and connect to the trees and hear the voices of the ancestors, the songs, the chants, the hekas. And so Heka energy is also very profound objective to study and to understand. And that, you know, oftentimes I've heard that music is a higher form of communication. Uh, being able to throw your voice, but to use your left brain versus your right brain. And that most people are left brain thinkers, and the school system is set up for left brain thinkers, and the right brain thinkers who are use a lot more abstract reasoning, and they pick up energy visually, and they use their multiple intelligences, are not as uh, uh, emphasized in the educational system. But the ideas of sound coming out of your voice, um, singing, using signs and symbols, using special tones, reaching certain octaves. For instance, you know, space music or music that has soothing effects, um, is a very profound objective into getting to a state of consciousness, or even hypnotism or relaxation or invigoration. The power of sound is very profound. Um, I also wanted to talk about um, how in this movie there were people in the war camp of all nationalities in this objective, but the nationalities were irrelevant, and that you saw different people of color included in this Western European phenomena of going to, you know, capture and conquer these cultural people of another country. And so this idea of assimilation or amalgamating or giving up your way of life and your cultural value system to embrace one unified value system, which was actually very hostile and truculent construct, was interesting.
there was part of the movie where they talk about this future world that's burnt out and it has
Right, that's what
no
he was saying.
ecology left.
They
Well,
killed their mother.
the last war that they had was when the rest of the world came for the resources in Nigeria.
Whoa, that's right.
And the final war, they destroyed the whole world, and then they basically had to all work together to try to go find some resources on another planet. And that was part of the reason for the diversity, is that they had cooperatively all destroyed their planet. And that's what got them all to say, we got to start working together after they had this massive fight for the resources
Right.
of Africa.
So that was the rally call of all the people, laying aside their differences and coming together. And, another aspect of that was that they were able to connect with the tree of life, way, and ask, for assistance. And, of course, one of the female lead characters, she said, there that the ancestors are neutral. They don't take sides. But then she said, "Oh, look like your prayers were answered." In that the animals from all over the kingdom, the worst animals, the ones that were most feared and were the largest threat, came and humbled themselves to assist in the battle of for this planet and rally for the planet. That was very powerful objective. And that also the idea that this planet is alive. And, Sase told me not to get too into, the spiritual side, but that's just where I am, and that I see that holistic idea that I'm thinking about the Amazon. I'm thinking about how our rainforests are being assaulted, how we carelessly have no connection with nature. We don't care about the environment. We just, you know, put our stuff in a plastic bag. We buy plastic bags, put our trash in these plastic bags, and put our plastic bags on a curb, and poof, it just disappears. So we don't think about what we did, and the level of consumption. Um, so yeah, the idea that the five gnomes have joined forces and have come together.
Got about 12 more minutes.
Okay. I also wanted to note Ma'afa means a terrible disaster, and they had a parallel of the time of great sorrow. Um, and so the idea of those connections. Go ahead.
All right, so that's good. Good review. Let's pay some bills real fast. We've got our different authors that have been supporting our movement. We want people to contact us and buy some of the books or go to their pages. We can raise money so we can do this. Have some special movies for the kids. We've got the MWAT, the Griot Gathering piece, and we've got Ricardo Lucas's Program for Murder. You get that through MY. You can come to us for the Bigger Than Me by Michael Robinson Summers. And also we're promoting the 21 Keys of Success by Freeway Rick Ross, the real Rick Ross, who's been coming to town for the last 5 years with MWAT. We've been promoting his items. You can contact us.
Don't you have like a little
directly.
pack, a self pack?
Yeah, and for all, I'm missing one book. Oh yeah, Nation Building How To. And also with my book, Nation Building How To, you can get this 5 pack right here for $80 instead of the regular $100. It's $20 an item. So just contact us. That's us paying our bills. And I want to thank everybody again. Thank the Black Box. Thank the the management team for approving us. We thank Charlie Street for investing in this empowerment grant and then taking the next step to make this available for the community that was empowered. So,
Also, I would like to encourage you all to, I have a Pixel website as a fundraiser for Almanac Academy, because this is a part of Almanac Academy Communiversity, where we are outreaching to the community. Almanac Academy is on Facebook, and we also have a blog spot. We're building green sustainable objectives. I provide as a teacher, certified teacher, I'm an itinerant homeschool teacher, where I can come into your home and sub. I can work with children as far as sustainable objectives and talk about recycling, talk about how to grow food and plant identification and other kinds of activities. And we're building uh, uh, an educational curriculum that will, work with children of uh, in the alternative of the traditional educational system. Um, so I have a pixel sign. I'm Adenike's Art. My name, adenikeaminra.pixel.com,
and
is my site.
we'll tag everything on the video so people can go right to the links. I know it's kind of difficult to, all the spelling, so we correct the spelling.
Yeah,
You got some vowels,
we'll
got some
send that
K's in there. So we'll just go ahead and do our advertising, put our links in this, and just follow up everybody, and we'll see y'all next week.
next week. Same. Uh, it's a matinee, so it's in the afternoon. Um, and then I want to encourage you all to look forward to coming on the 25th of, I believe it's the fourth Sunday. Our event will all, before that we'll have an afternoon event called the Emoja Karamu, and it is a African history celebration. We have 5 periods that we'll discuss, and we have sacred food that we exchange. There's colors that reflect those time periods, and just wanting to encourage you all to come out. It's a potluck supper, and after that we'll still be able to see our film festival. Again, thank you all. Again, my name is Adenike Aminra, known as Nuta Betsu. You can find me on Facebook as Adenike Aminra. Um, I thank you again for your time and your energy, and please interact. Please feel free to connect with us. Give us your comments and your presentation.
All right, we made it on time. All right, we out of here. Thanks a lot for supporting M1.
That's it. Okay.